북한 공산 세력의 위협으로부터 자유 대한민국을 수호하고 우리 국민의 자유와 행복을 약탈하고 있는 파렴치한 종북 반국가 세력들을 일거에 척결하고 자유 헌정 질서를 지키기 위해
On Tuesday night, December 3rd, 2024, the world was shocked by South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's surprise announcement. In a live-streamed speech, Yoon announced the imposition of martial law that would take effect at midnight. In the speech, Yoon openly accused the Democratic Party, the main opposition in South Korea, of sympathizing with North Korea and engaging in anti-state actions. He even called the National Assembly, which is dominated by the opposition, a gathering place for criminals who seek to destroy the country's justice system. The declaration marks the first time in 45 years that martial law has been imposed in South Korea, the last occurrence being after the assassination of President Park Chung-hee in 1979. South Korea, previously trapped in military-authoritarian rule until the early 1980s, has developed into one of the world's most dynamic democracies. With a population of 50 million and its status as the world's 10th largest economy, the sudden decision to impose martial law caused great concern both at home and abroad. Just hours after martial law, chaos began to sweep across the country. Thousands of South Koreans took to the streets in urban centers, calling for massive protests. Fears of political and economic instability also triggered panic buying among the public. In a short period of time, the prices of basic necessities jumped dramatically. Reports from local media showed that canned food prices rose by 300%, while instant noodles jumped by 250% between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. local time. Financial markets also suffered a direct impact. Shares in South Korea's stock market plummeted sharply.
South Korean stocks tumbled Wednesday morning after a night of political turmoil.
While the won currency remained near a 2-year low. This situation added pressure to the South Korean economy, which was already facing a slowdown due to geopolitical tensions and the transition to an aging society. In certain situations, a country may face a threat so great that normal government mechanisms are deemed inadequate. It is under these circumstances that martial law is often a last resort.
South Korea's democratically elected president declaring martial law. The White House, of course, watching this very closely today with nearly 30,000 U.S. troops stationed there.
When martial law is imposed, people's civil rights are at stake. For reasons of stability and security, restrictions on civil liberties are the first step usually taken. Freedom of speech, assembly and association, the bedrock of democracy, are often banned. The mass media comes under close scrutiny, with censorship enforced to ensure no information is deemed threatening to stability. Any publication that could potentially provoke unrest could also be banned. Another equally drastic measure is law enforcement, which is under the full control of the military. The powers granted include warrantless arrests, searches, and even detention without a clear legal process. This situation created a tense atmosphere where the legal rights of individuals became vulnerable to abuse of authority. In an effort to strengthen control and maintain stability, the government can also mobilize national resources to support military authority. Human and material resources are directed entirely in the interest of the country's stability. In the case of martial law in South Korea, striking medical personnel can be required to return to duty against their will. This kind of mobilization is done under the pretext of national interest, although it often draws controversy. Since February 2024, South Korea's healthcare sector has been under immense pressure due to strikes by doctors. The government, under the leadership of President Yoon, plans to increase the admission quota of medical students to cope with the country's transition to an aging society. This policy aims to address the shortage of medical staff, which is expected to become a crisis in the next decade. However, doctors who are members of the Health Workers Union strongly oppose the policy. They argue that the main problem is not the number of doctors, but rather the poor working system. Excessively long working hours, low compensation, and reliance on interns are the main issues they highlight.
병원에서 전공이나 PA들한테 진료를 받는 게 아니고 제대로 된 전문의들에게 전문가적 소견에 따른 진료를 받을 수 있는 환경을 만들어달라라고 저희가 요청을 하고 있는 거고.
The strike has disrupted health services across the country. Many hospitals have been forced to cancel essential surgeries and treatments, adding to the suffering of patients. President Yoon's decision to force doctors back to work through the imposition of martial law has only worsened relations between the government and medics. Since taking office in May 2022, President Yoon Suk-yeol has faced much criticism. His popularity continues to decline due to various policies that are considered controversial. No less than 22 impeachment motions have been filed against officials in his administration over the past 2 years. Public confidence in President Yoon further declined after he rejected calls for an independent investigation into a corruption and stock manipulation scandal involving his wife and several senior government officials. This move sparked strong criticism from the opposition, media, and civil society. The imposition of martial law on December 3, 2024 was seen as the culmination of a series of policies deemed incompetent and authoritarian. Although it only lasted a few hours before it was finally lifted, this decision left a traumatizing trail for South Koreans who have been proud of their democratic status. President Yoon's declaration of martial law sparked a huge wave of protests across South Korea. Labor unions immediately launched an indefinite strike, while thousands of citizens staged candlelight protests in various cities. The scene was reminiscent of the 2016 candlelight rallies that eventually succeeded in ousting former President Park Chung-hee over her massive scandal that rocked the country.
저는 이제 모든 것을 내려놓았습니다. 하루속히 대한민국이 혼란에서 벗어나.
The demonstrations also evoked memories of South Korea's long history of presidential ouster. The first president, Syngman Rhee, was forced to step down in 1960 after 3 terms of leadership marked by corruption and election manipulation. Park Chung-hee, who ruled with an iron fist, was killed in an assassination in 1979, following public dissatisfaction with his administration. Chun Do-hwan, who came to power after Park, was forced to step down in 1988 due to pressure from the pro-democracy movement. At the time of writing, President Yoon Suk-yeol's fate is in the hands of the National Assembly and the Constitutional Court. If the National Assembly approves the impeachment, the trial will be conducted by the Constitutional Court. Here, 9 judges will decide President Yoon's fate. If 6 of the 9 judges approve the impeachment, then President Yoon will be removed from office. Meanwhile, a wave of protests continues to spread, with the main demand being that President Yoon resign immediately. Many political observers believe that President Yoon's martial law measures have accelerated the process of his downfall.